Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you may be. Welcome to another Microsoft screencast on Windows 7. My name is Keith Combs, and I'll be your host for the next few minutes. Today, we're going to look at a new security feature in Windows 7 called BitlockerToGo. So before we do that, let's kind of set this up. Let's take a look at a USB stick I've got here. And you can see this on your screen. So if I look at my computer, you can see we've got a little USB stick. It's a 2 gig SanDisk Cruiser. If we look at that machine, or that little stick I should say, you'll notice that we've got some pictures on it. You know, nothing really sensitive. There's no information on this stick at the moment that is confidential. So let's set the stage for that. Let's go take a look at my documents here. Let's pretend I'm a manager and that I've got, employee information and all types of information that's sensitive here. Well, let's also pretend that I'm going to take a new job and there's a new incoming manager that I'm going to do turnover with. So I've got a reorganization sort of realignment announcement that's here. So let me go ahead and copy this and let's place this on that USB stick. So I can paste that down to that. Now what you see right off the bat is that we have no policies guarding against the ability to put sensitive data on this particular device. So there's nothing preventing me from doing that right now. This device is not encrypted. There's no policies. I could lose that device. I could leave that stick in a conference room or lose that out in the public somewhere. And before I know it, I've got sensitive data out there in the wild, wild west. So that could be, product information. It could be, something that's proprietary to your company. It might be financial data. It might be healthcare records if you're a doctor. God knows what. We've heard all the horror stories. So let's look at how we can prevent users from copying sensitive data to devices like this that are not managed, that are not encrypted, and don't have these types of policies applied to them. So let's first of all, let's apply some policies. So I'm going to bring up some local policies here for removable devices, and we're going to apply these BitlockerToGo policies. So let me get some of these turned on. So we're going to allow the use of BitLocker. We're going to force you to encrypt the drive before you can write any data to it. We're going to turn on some password complexity requirements. So we're going to require passwords. Now, regarding complexity, the default setting here is to allow complex passwords. We're not going to force that right now, so we're going to go ahead and allow that. But we are going to force passwords with at least 8 characters, 8 alphanumeric characters there. And then we're also going to allow devices to be recovered. So we're going to give them some recovery options here. And we'll go ahead and leave the default settings here. Okay? So we'll go ahead and save that. All right, so now we've got some policies applied. Let's go ahead and save our console, get out of that. And I'm going to remove my USB stick, and then I'm going to plug it back in. So now we see that some of the policies are in effect. So it's saying, hey, dude, if you want to write any information to this, you need to encrypt that. Now I'm going to cancel out of this. I want to show you a couple things here. I want to show you from the UI of Explorer here. If we go click on this drive and right mouse click it, you'll notice that we have a little context sensitive menu item there for turning on BitLocker. So we can go ahead and encrypt that drive right now. But before we do encryption, let's try and write something to that drive. So let's see if that policy is really working. So let's grab an employee record for Terry Adams here. Copy. Paste that down to that drive. And sure enough, it's preventing us from copying that information. So we'll cancel out of that. Let's go to Control Panel now. Show you another place we can go to encrypt that drive. So the System and Security area up here top left, click on that. You'll notice down here close to the bottom we've got BitLocker Drive Encryption. Click on that, and then we're going to turn on BitLocker for the 2 gig USB stick that I've got here, that SanDisk Cruiser. Turn that on. We're going to get prompted for a password here in just a moment. Give it a second to do that. There it is. So let's plug in a password. In my case, I'm just plugging in the word password. Again, we're not using a complex password. We're not forcing that now. We're also not using enterprise group policy settings at this point. We're just doing local policies. So if you wanted to enforce that through a GPO, you could certainly do that, and I will actually do that later in some other screencasts. You'll notice here it's asking us, hey, what do you want to do with your recovery key? You want to print that? Do you want to save that to a file? Do you want to do both? Let's first of all save that locally. So we're going to save that to an unencrypted drive here, my documents library. You'll notice that it creates the file name, so it creates this sort of GUID type file name, a little kind of complex ID there. Save that off. Click Next. You'll notice that it's ready to encrypt the drive. It's showing our password there. That's all fine. And let's go ahead and start the encryption process. Watch this kick off. Once it kicks off, then I'll put you on pause till we get right to the tail end of the encryption process. Then we'll come back and look at some of the other information that's available status-wise during the encryption process. So there we go. Now it's kicking off, and I'm going to put you on pause for about the next 5 minutes. It's going to take about 5 minutes or so to encrypt this 2 gig stick. So think about that. If you've got an 8 gig, 16 gig, or a really monster USB stick, think how long it's going to take to encrypt that. Now, my particular memory stick isn't the speediest in the world, so that comes into play as well. But the point I'm trying to make here is don't do this right before you're running off to a meeting and you don't have any time to do this. So set this up ahead of time. I'm going to put you on pause for a few minutes here. Okay, I'm taking you out of pause just for a moment. Looks like we're coming up on the halfway mark. It's been about 2 or 3 minutes. So as you can see, we're about halfway done, and I'm going to put you on pause again. We'll come back right before the tail end of this, right before it gets done. Okay, as you can see, it's just about done here. We're right at the tail end of the encryption process. So our drive's going to be available to us here in just a moment. There we go. There's our completion message. Click Close. Now you'll also notice here in Control Panel, we have a little Manage BitLocker link there. When we click that, we have a number of different options that we can use. We can change the password, save or print that recovery key. So we can do a number of different options that are in there. So keep that in mind from Control Panel. Let's do this. Let's remove our memory stick and then reinsert that. See what that looks like. We should get prompted for our password. Sure enough, we're prompted. Oops, helps to get the right focus there. Tell it to unlock our drive. And there we have it. We see our 2 gig cruiser autoplay ready to rock and roll. So let me just cancel out of this. We'll bring up Explorer. Let's go back to our documents area here, go into HR. Let's grab some employee records. Let's do a copy, paste those over to our drive. Start to see those pasting in there. So as you can see, our policies are working very, very nicely, pasting right on over to that drive. Give it a chance to get going. There we go. And with that, that's BitlockerToGo. So hopefully you'll see that, encrypting and using policies for removable disks, like these little USB sticks we all use, is a great way to prevent sensitive data from getting into the wrong hands. And hopefully you see the value in that. Be sure and check out the group policy settings that are available if you're using an Active Directory domain-based environment. And with that, this is Keith Combs. I'd like to thank you for watching this screencast. We'll see you again on another Windows 7 screencast on a feature very, very soon.